Talk to me a little bit about the NWA product. You know, you leave 2 months prior to this pay-per-view. Are you still watching their television at all? I mean, I know you're on the road all the time. Are you trying to catch tapes of it when you can, or is that in the rearview mirror and you don't really care at this point?
I flung gravel on it in the rearview mirror way back. Never looked at a show, didn't care, made a commitment to the new company. We were dead set on, I thought that was my last move of my career. That was it. I'm going to settle in here. You know, the world is their oyster. They're expanding. They're running 3 towns a night sometimes. I'm set. I could care less what they were doing back into Turner.
Did you have any extended friends or family who, you know, in your real life, who, for whatever reason, viewed the WWF as the quote more big time and felt like it was a really big deal for you to be a part of Vince McMahon's outfit compared to Jim Crockett's?
Well, everybody in the back of their head, there was a saying back then, I'm going to go to New York. Everybody knew what you mean. It wasn't, I'm going to go to the WWF. When a guy was going to head that way, it was, hey, I'm going to New York. And we heard the salaries. We heard them from enough people that we believed that the chance to make buku money was there if you were positioned properly, the right place on the big pay-per-views. The merchandise was absolutely ridiculous. Iron Sheik, $80,000 for a action figure for a quarter. That's for a quarter. The money that we were hearing about was just unbelievable. And you would get bits and pieces, and we weren't long enough to ever get positioned in that money slot, which as a team, you were never going to be there anyway, because Vince looked at teams as a semi-main event only at best. He never looked at teams being in the main event. And he also, it was like instead of one big payoff, it was one big payoff divided by 2. Right. And if you had a manager there, divided by another, head. So you knew the potential was there. You just had to get in the right position. And everyone in the industry pretty much realized that was the top shelf deal. We heard about the WrestleMania payoffs and all that, and you knew it was possible. You just had to somehow get in that position.
Talk to me a little bit about, I'm loving the rabbit hole we're going down here, from the pop culture perspective. Vince McMahon had managed to not only have, as you said, the action figures and he's on the lunch boxes, but he's also got pop culture. He's managed to get Hulk Hogan on the cover of Sports Illustrated and Hulk Hogan on Saturday Night Live. And, there is a Hulk Hogan Rockin' Wrestling cartoon, and he's partnered with MTV, and he had definitely embraced, the mainstream, and the mainstream had embraced him rather. And he had become, his creation had become part of pop culture in a way that very few other brands do. Like, even today, when people talk about wrestling, they sort of just call it WWE. If you're a non-wrestling fan, you refer to MMA as the UFC, and they say, oh, well, he's into that ultimate fighting. Well, it's actually mixed martial arts. And people say, oh, that's a WWE move. Well, it's actually a pro wrestling move. That's a company. But people had started to associate his brand with an entire industry. And much like when people say, oh, I'll have a Coke. Is Pepsi fine? Oh yeah, that's fine. The guy really just wanted a soda, but he ordered a Coke, and Band-Aid is a brand and Kleenex is a brand. Did you feel like being a part of that brand was going to make you a more, and I know this may not have ever been your aspiration, but you had a better chance to be a quote unquote star with Vince than you did at Crockett?
Well, the one thing you couldn't deny is when you would go up north and you would go to Boston and you would go to New York City and whatever event was running up there, and you'd go do your normal thing during the day. You'd go to the hotel, check in, you get your rent a car, and You go to the gym, you go find a restaurant, get something to eat, all the normal things you did during the day. You were so much higher profile being on that TV in that area of the country. It made you a bigger star, certainly being on that television, even though we had buku time on WTBS. Everybody didn't have WTBS back then. It wasn't like it was part of your package. So there was areas of the country. Certainly in Canada, you were a bigger star. Places like that, you would go overseas, you would be a bigger star because the television was so strong. It was just unbelievable. So you could feel yourself becoming higher profile just from the fact of being on that TV.